Hi, I'm artist Andrea Kirk with the channel The Art Chik, and today we are going to paint pink flamingos. And I'm actually really excited about this because, to be honest, I have never painted a pink flamingo and I've been dying to do it. So I went out and I purchased a long skinny canvas that I can work on, and I'm going to show you the step-by-step process of drawing the flamingo, and then we'll paint it with the beautiful acrylic paints. So get out your supplies and we will get started. For this project, I used Master's Touch acrylic paints. I really like the colors in this particular set. I found it at Hobby Lobby, and I'm sure it can also be purchased on Amazon. You will also need a canvas, a disposable plate, a cup of water, and paper towels. These are the brush sizes that I used. You will also need a palette knife. I like to use a brown Prismacolor to draw my image on canvas. To begin, roughly mark the flamingo's placement on your canvas. Then start by drawing its head using basic shapes. I drew a rounded rectangle on a diagonal. Next, begin drawing the curve of the flamingo's neck. To better help yourself with this, draw a guideline in the direction the neck needs to be, and then draw parallel lines down and around both sides. It should almost look like a backward S. Next, draw a slanted line at the base of the neck, and then draw the outline for the rest of the body. For the beak, draw a slanted rectangle. Then add an upside-down curvy cone shape. Now draw two slanted lines, and then a half circle connecting them together. Let's broaden the face and head a little. Now add a circle for the eye, and then another circle around that. Let's widen the beak a little at the top. Now that your basic sketch is in place, it's time to work on the final details. Let's narrow the neck a little. And be sure to erase the extra lines. We are ready to draw the feathers. The smaller feathers look like small upside-down leaves. Stagger those up along the top half. The further down you go, the longer the feathers get. Watch the detail I add to the beak and follow along. Add a tiny dot for the pupil of the eye. Now erase all of your extra lines and you are done with your sketch. Now it's time to begin painting. These are the colors I used for the water. Let's begin mixing our colors for the background, and then I will show you how to paint water. So, in order, these are my paints, and I did gloss gel medium. This is titanium white. This is milky white. This is ocean green. This is viridian, pale blue, lake blue, and cobalt blue over here. And basically what you're going to do is do multiple colors. You can mix them into each other, and I usually just start with white. And what I'll do is take first the lightest shade, which is the ocean green, and mix that together to get a really light shade. And then I'll swipe it, and then I'll take some of these darker colors. So I took my viridian, I'm going to take some pale blue and mix those together. And that gives you another good shade to work with. And these are Master's Touch acrylic paints, if you needed to know that. And I just bought the 48 count set, so it has 48 tubes of paint. And I did that so that I had more shades to work with. Okay, so as you can see, I've mixed these two together to get this with a little bit of the pale blue, and I want to add some white to that, so I'm going to swipe this over here and then wipe off your palette knife, take some white. And the nice thing about these colors too is you can actually dip your paintbrush directly into any of those and use them. It's just I'm making additional colors to be in between shades so that you can use several. So let's get a greenish shade to go in between. So I'm going to take viridian and lake blue, mix those two together. It gives you a greenish blue. And just keep playing with that. Mix as many colors as you need to. Don't think you have to do it exactly like me. I'm just playing as I go, and that's always how I work. So that's part of the fun of being an artist, is just making up different colors by mixing several different colors together. So don't think that you're right or wrong. Just have fun and experiment. And let's go ahead and get started painting. Make sure you use a lot of the gloss medium gel so that your paint is slippery. With your large square brush, take the aquamarine shade and paint along the top right-hand corner of your painting. Next, add a few horizontal lines with your white paint and gently blend together with the blue. Notice how I'm also painting the sides of my canvas as I go along. Continue with the blue all the way down to the bird's back. Watch as I layer two different shades of blue. This will add more color and dimension to the water. For reflection, add a lighter layer of paint using horizontal lines. Also add a lighter shade of blue at the base of his neck. You can never use too many horizontal lines. Watch how I paint the blue in between his head and neck. When painting the water, be sure to use all of the different colors that you've mixed. Just not at the same time. You will stagger the colors throughout the entire background. With acrylic paints, you need to work quickly so that they don't dry before you blend. Be very careful around all of your edges. On the top left, you will be repeating the same process. Remember to paint the lighter shade the further down you go. And don't forget those edges unless you want to frame your painting. In time-lapse, watch how I create the water swirls. I used a zigzag pattern while painting. Also notice how many different shades of blue and white I used. Now that we've completed the background, it's time to begin the flamingo. These are the colors I will be using for the flamingo's beak. Now that we've done the background, it's time to start the beak of the flamingo. And I'm just going to take each section of the flamingo and the painting and give you all the colors and how to mix them. So this will be for the beak, and again, we have the glass gel medium, we have the titanium white, this is light olive green, this is the viridian again, this is the pale blue, the cobalt blue, and this is called rouge, and this is burnt sienna, this is orange, and then we have the light magenta. And again, these are the Master's Touch paints. So for the beak, we will have an area that's black, but then with the black, on the edges, we're going to have a little bit of purple and blue. So I want you to dip into that rouge color and the cobalt blue and just mix that together. And that will just give the beak a little more depth. Okay, and then you can also lighten that up even more, add more blue. And I just did, for the beak, small amounts of paint because it's not a very big area. So don't worry about getting a lot of paint on your palette at this point. Okay, so what I'm doing here is just mixing a blue that can go along with the black on the beak. And as you can see, there's a lot of purple in there, and that's okay, that's what we want. Okay, so that's for the black and the blue area. And then there will be an area that has white, but what I teach my students is that white is never just white. There's always going to be color within white. And so I'm going to mix the pale blue with white, and that's also going to be in the white area. And then I also want a little bit of that purple mixed with the pale blue and more white. Okay, and that gives us a light purple. And then I want somewhat of a gray color, so I'm going to take the ivory black and mix that in. And that gives us a nice gray. And then around the bird's eye, there's just a little bit of brown. So take that burnt sienna. I already had the gray and the blue on my palette knife, and I'm just going to mix that in with it to lighten it up a little bit. Also some orange, and maybe a little bit of the white. Okay, and that's a good color. And then there is some pink on the beak, so I'm going to take this orange and the light magenta, mix those two together. That's a little too electric, so we're going to tone that down a little bit in a minute. I'm going to put some white over here and mix the magenta with that. Okay, and we can pull some of that orange into there. We may want to keep this as bright as it is, so I'll have to do more pink over here because I'm running out of room. So I mixed more orange and pink together. This time I'm not going to add as much white, just very, very little. Okay, and then let's mix a little bit in here as well. That gives us a peachy color. And it wouldn't hurt to get a little bit of that purple to mix with orange. And that will be for some of the shaded areas on the beak. And take pink, a lot of pink, a lot of white, and more orange, but not as much. Okay, and that will give us more of a pinky color. There we go. And I might have you dip into that magenta as is as well when we're working. So we have enough shades of the pink, and now we just need a color for the eye, and I love this green, so I'm going to take the light olive green and mix white with it. Okay, just to lighten that up. And see how bright that is. That's the color of the eye. Might make it a little more green. There we go. Okay, so there you have it. Now let's begin painting the beak. So when doing the beak, you will need these fine tip brushes. This one's a little bit thicker than that one. This one's longer, and be sure to rinse them really well as you're painting so that you don't ruin your bristles. So go ahead and use those as well as the other brushes that I recommended, and you'll be good to go. Begin by painting black at the base of the beak. And now take dark blue and paint along the edges to fade. The dark blue also helps to make the beak look rounded. Now fill this area with the pinky orange shade. Gently fade into the black, and then add a deep orange at the base of the pink. You can also stipple the orange throughout the pink. In the center, add a dark red line. Take some white paint and paint a line right above the pink. Gently blend the white into the pink. Now add a bold line with your black paint. To blend the black into the white, add purple underneath the black. Now add texture with your white paint. To accentuate the red line, add a white line on top. Now paint the top area white. Watch which areas I add the light blue. Notice how I'm gently blending the white into the blue. It's extremely important that you blend all of your edges so that they aren't jagged. I'm going to add a salmon pink and a deep red to my palette. I will use these colors a lot as we begin the feathers. Use your fine tip brush to paint the small details on the beak. Pay close attention to all of the colors I am using from the colors we mixed on the palette. Blending is necessary each time you add a new color. It also gives you the smooth look that you're going for. Use the salmon shade to paint around the eye, and then use yellow and white to paint over that. Now outline the outer eye with a deep brown or black shade to enhance it. Use the light greenish yellow shade within the eye itself. Go back over the outer eye with the salmon shade to blend. And now take black and add a tiny pupil or dot in the center of the eye. Now watch how I use my medium flat square brush to stipple the feathers on the head and neck of the flamingo. Be sure to use every shade of pink we mixed. And watch carefully as I demonstrate where each shade is applied. I added a grayish blue along the top of the beak to contrast against the background. Also add a dark pink to the feathers at the top left and bottom right, where the beak and feathers meet. And don't forget the fluffy feathers above the eye. Also notice the tiny white dot I added at the top of the pupil. We're going to add the black up here on the beak. This just adds to the character of the flamingo itself, and without it, it just doesn't look the same. Okay, so you do the black first, and then you will add pink at the bottom. You'll fade that black into the pink. So take that pink and just add it at the bottom. And then if you don't want it to be quite so harsh, just take white and fade right at the bottom of the pink right here and blend. Okay, and then just make your edges look soft. You can also take blue at the top and use that to fade the black. So just go over that with the blue. And then dip your brush back in the black and pull it up into the blue, and you just kind of go back and forth until it fades. And if you're having a hard time with that, just take white and go over both the blue and the black, and that will help to blend it together. And then on the edges, you want to soften these lines, so just take white or gray and go along this area right here so that you don't have that jagged edge that we talked about earlier. Okay, and then from there, let's take more blue And we're going to come underneath the pink and take that blue and run it downward. And then get the white and go up each side and soften those lines on both sides. Okay, and you can see how it just looks really nice and soft right there. Be sure to use that gel retarder, it's amazing. I don't know what I would do without it. Okay, so down here, that's where we need to add more pink. So right up against the black, take your pink. You'll go across with the darker pink first. Kind of blend that into the black. And then you take the lighter shade of pink, the salmon color, and you'll just start speckling with your brush or stippling. And you don't want it to be too heavy, so what I would do is take white or light blue, either one, and you'll just blend that into it and see how that softens. I'm going to take more white and get that area wet right here. That will help your paint to blend. So now that that's wet, now take the pink and go back over it. And you just fade it out as you go up until it disappears. Just like that. Come right up along here. And that will help to soften this area by using the light pink against the light blue. And see what a pretty touch that is to the beak. Okay, you can even add more light pink up here and along here. And if you want, you can even add a small shadow up in this area. I would do the light pink and the blue. So now I'll take the light blue and soften that. But now you have a really nice shadow up along there. And if you still feel like the nostril just needs a little more highlighting, you can take white on one side of your brush, and I still have blue on the other side, which worked out great. And I'm going to stroke up along there. And that just helped to define the nostril. And then you can do it on the other side as well. And then one more thing that I think would be really nice on the black part of the beak is take your blue and I would just take it and kind of show where that opening is on the beak down here. And you don't have to do it all the way up, but just show kind of where it starts. And then you might need to dip your paintbrush back in the black to fade it right here. Maybe make that a little less obvious. But then you have a hint of where the beak opens up. Then it looks a little more realistic. And I might do just a little bit up here too, not a lot. And again, take that black and fade it right here. And see how nice that looks? Okay, so there's your beak. Okay, so now we are going to do the feathers, the long feathers on the flamingo. And so the colors here that I'm going to use, I love that Master's Touch sells a silver color. So here's silver, and we have titanium white, pale blue, cobalt blue, rouge, light magenta, and pink. And then also use the colors that you used for the flamingo's head and neck. You will need those as well. So if you need to go back and look at what colors you mixed, you can do that. So to mix these, always start with, you know, a lighter shade first, and then you can work your way into the darker shades. But there are a lot of purples in this, and so I'm going to start with a purple here. And I mixed the rouge with a titanium white, and then I'm going to swipe this over here and take the blue, the lighter blue, and mix that together to get a nice blue shade that has a purple tint, and then add a little more titanium white to part of it so you get an even lighter shade, and then get more white, and you can do it again. You can see how it gets lighter and lighter. Okay, and then the silver, go ahead and swipe that blue and clean off your palette knife right here and take some silver and blend that in. And this will just give it a metallic look, which will be really, really nice. So you definitely want that. And then we want some darker pinks. And so I would mix the pink and the light magenta together. And then your other palette should have a lot of that orange and red. You are going to need those. So again, go back and use those. And let's see, what else can we do here? Let's do white and pink, just to get a light peachy color. And then one more, I think we should mix the darker blue with purple. This will give us a nice shadow. And then swipe that here. Let's take the rest of that titanium white. I might need to get more on my plate here. And then that just makes that purple lighter. So these are some really good colors to work with for the feathers. Also, you definitely want more titanium white on your plate so that you can just use it to lighten areas. I just dip my paintbrush in there and sometimes go over the top, and it just tends to lighten things a little bit. So make sure you get your gloss medium gel. You will definitely need that, so put quite a bit on your plate. Now let's begin the feathers. What I want you to do first is take some of the colors before they dry from your palette and just go in underneath these feathers that we drew and add some nice shadows. And then you'll go over the top of these feathers with the lighter shades. And I wouldn't do the whole area darker right now. While the paint is wet, that's when you want to work with the lighter colors, because then they can blend into the darker and it looks really, really nice. So I'm just going to go in and darken a few areas. And then watch what happens as I add a lighter color. You can see how it blends. So for my other palette, I want to do a lighter pink shade. So I'll come up here and stroke that downward, but I'm going to get the light pink from our new palette and do that on the edge right here. And see how that contrasts against that darker background. And then all you have to do is just blend it into that red, and see how the edges look really nice. You don't see any white from the canvas. It just blends together beautifully. That's what you want. So in showing you again on another feather. This time I'm dipping my brush into the light blue. I want a purplish tint over here, kind of a bluish purplish tint. So come over here and add that shade. Now another thing, to make that stand out better, you can get a darker blue and just come down a little bit like this and see how pretty that makes that feather look. And then if you do paint over the red, you can just go back with your brush and fix that. I might even add some red up here just to contrast against that blue background. And then again, make sure that you blend the edges. And so I took a salmon color and I'm going right up against that blue, the top of the blue, and blending it into the background. Same thing down here. And that just softens it. And then at the very bottom, that will be the lightest area of the feather. So I got some white and I'm just going to define that a little bit more. And see how pretty that looks? So that's the idea, and that's what you'll continue to do. So rather than taking an entire hour to show you guys how to do this, I'm going to put it on time lapse and just watch carefully. You can pause at any time and see what I'm doing, but just watch the order of colors that I use and follow along, but at least you now know the technique and how to get started. Don't be afraid to use all of the colors we mixed for the feathers. As you begin painting the longer feathers, use a sequence of blue, red, pink, and purple to add contrast and texture to your bird. Notice how I add a streak of silver down over some of my already painted feathers. This will make the flamingo look more reflective. You can also add a skinny white line down the center of some of the longer feathers. To brighten the neck a little, take your smaller square flat brush and stipple a lighter shade in the areas shown. Then take your fine tip brush and use it to complete your finishing touches. In the end, you'll have a gorgeous and bright pink flamingo. Thank you for painting with me today. My goal is to help you succeed with art, so be sure to like and subscribe, and watch for many more fun projects like this one to come. See you next time.